Welcome to The Revealing. Once again, your host, Pavoratii. Again, this channel is for entertainment purposes only. I'm not here to slander anyone. These are my opinions. With that being said, let's get started. This is video 2. In this video, once again, we're going through the leaked texts from the Thought Right podcast. And this is supposedly the father of one of the victims who was doing his own investigating and working with the law enforcement to try to obtain justice for his child. Now, we don't know if these things are real. I have gone through them, though, each and every one, and they sure seem real. So with that being said, don't hold me to it if they're real or not, because they have not been verified. I'm going to go ahead and do this video like they are real. So let's take a look at some of those texts. And in the first video, it's more than just a text. It's actually a snippet. It's a snippet of a video that a lot of you may have seen already. Now, the father suggests in this video that this is actually a lady. The law enforcement believes this is a lady, and she is working with Mr. Kohberger in this atrocity. Now, if that is a lady, and she is working with Mr. Kohberger, well, that would absolutely destroy the law enforcement narrative of an incel Ted Bundy stalker on a random event unaliving 4 young children. That would be pre-planned hitman style atrocity with accomplices. Now, that's as far as I'm going to go on that one. Let's look at a few more of these texts, though, and we'll see what we can infer from them. I'm going to, again, go through them rather quickly, so if you can't read them, that's okay. I'm going to read them to you when they're done. And again, we're focusing on just the text from the father, not the stuff in blue from the internet sleuth. She's got all kinds of wild conspiracy things that she wants to talk about. Strictly talking about the information that he's given to get information back. Look at it from his perspective. Okay, so let's go through these. Now, the first one, you can see it pertains to the video that we just watched about the lady in the trash can doing something nefarious around the times of the atrocities in the neighborhood of the atrocities. And he said, what kind of woman would protect a monster? Another kind of monster. Well, that would be absolutely correct. And let's think about this for a second. Let's think about the incel. So if the incel had a woman with him, helping him cover up his incel atrocities, how low would the self-esteem of that woman have to be to know that she's helping a guy who just went in and committed an atrocity on several young ladies simply because they're young ladies, and he hates women, and she's helping him. So watch, her self-esteem must be terrible. Either that or that's not why this thing happened. Okay, the next one is the girl's toxicology reports came back clear. Stacy said Ethan's was clear as well. So that tells us that the victims in this case hadn't been drugged. Nobody drugged them at the bar or the Grubhub truck earlier. They also weren't actively using drugs, or the toxicology report would have reflected that. So if they're not actively using drugs, they're probably not involved in drugs. So who else would be? If this thing is about drugs, who else would be? Well, we've discussed that. Go back and watch all my videos. It'll explain everything to you. It's all starting to come to light now. This one was very interesting. The FBI got so involved because BK was being monitored back in Pennsylvania. Okay, so some of you may be thinking, well, yeah, they were monitoring all the way from Idaho or Washington to Pennsylvania when he went back with his dad, and they were monitoring him for the few days he was there. Well, that's not why they became so involved, though, because the FBI had been involved since when? Day one. Wasn't it the FBI who was so involved in the IGG investigation? The FBI was helping every step of the way. Why were they so involved? Because BK was being monitored back in Pennsylvania before BK ever came to Washington/Idaho. Now, why would the FBI be monitoring BK, this Bryan kohberger, this nice young college student? Oh, is it because they thought maybe he was a incel aspiring to be a Ted Bundy type? Well, as much credit as I would like to give the FBI, they actually can't see the future on things like that. I'm sorry. More than likely, though, they were monitoring him because he was involved and must have been a higher form in the drug trade up there in Pennsylvania, because they don't monitor the little user dealers like I've explained to you. He was doing the same thing, him and his buddy, up there in Pennsylvania before they moved over to Washington/Idaho to do the exact same thing. FBI knew that. They were monitoring them. That's why I said the reason they probably moved out there is the heat was on. Turns out that heat was on. And this next one, if you go back and watch one of my videos, this one is a red flag to me, okay? Because it didn't pertain to anything in the conversation that was going on. It just kind of appears in there like they wanted just to set a seed for this information to get out there. This has PSYOP written all over it. And if you go back and you watch my video on my 2 predictions in the upcoming trial, when the trial actually comes to fruition, one of my predictions on that video, and I wanted to get that out there long before the trial ever happened, but one of my predictions on there was during the course of this trial, there'll all of a sudden be this jailhouse snitch that befriended Mr. kohberger somewhere along the way and got Mr. kohberger to confess to him, and this will absolutely appear in the trial. So when I seen this text, I went, PSYOP, planting seeds. We do have a long story about a so-called jailhouse snitch, but it never developed into anything we could find proof of, but we spent weeks trying and interviewing some shady leads. Let me hear your comments, your criticisms. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like. My last video, I'm gonna save it for later on this afternoon, because that last video is gonna fill in all the pieces in this puzzle, and Pavoratii may be out after that one. Pavoratii out.